Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So last week we are in Amrutanubhava, chapter 7, verse number 15. We have to start today, and in the 14th verse, how ignorance cannot exist or know itself was stated, and there it was told that who is the one. There is always someone who knows there is ignorance, isn't it? Who is that person? That I was ignorant before, now I am not. So here it was told, the knower of consciousness, knowing the ignorance, is one without a second. Ignorance is not one without a second. Thoughts are not one without a second. Relative knowledge is not one without a second. The consciousness who knows all this, presence and absence, is one without a second, and that I am. This being so, if one says that this pure consciousness, which is the nature of pure knowledge, is covered by ignorance and behaves like an ignorant, then who knows this ignorance? In other words, he is putting a question: is it possible for ignorance to cover the pure consciousness? Is it possible for clouds to cover the sun? It appears that way, isn't it? It appears that way. But we must be very clear about the meaning of the word appearance. So if the cloud appears to cover the sun, means actually it is not covering the sun. It is only appearing that way. It's only phenomenal. Sun can never be covered, because you are seeing the sun in the light of the, you are seeing the cloud in the light of the sun. And exactly the same way, if cloud cannot cover the sun, and if you look at it from the sun's point of view, from the sun's, take the position of the sun. You are standing on the earth and saying cloud is covering the sun. But take the position of the sun. Is there a cloud? No. From sun's point of view, there is no cloud. So from pure consciousness point of view, is there ignorance? Not possible. Then where are you looking? Then how come you are giving this validity, or this question comes to our mind that I know ignorance, that ignorance is covering the self that I am? Because you are coming from the earth, which is, you're coming from the body, from body point of view, from limitation point of view, from conditioning point of view, which is itself an effect of ignorance, expression of ignorance. If it is the Atman, then how can the Atman behave like an ignorant? If you are an Atman, in essence, then how can you behave like an ignorant person? Is it possible for you to behave ignorant? then this idea that I am ignorant about the self itself is deleted. But for that, you have to accept that you are of the nature of pure consciousness. Accept its consequence also. There's no consequence, but from relative standpoint, the thinking of the consequence, we get scared. The whole world is an expression of Maya, expression of ignorance. And if I accept myself to be pure consciousness, then this whole world will vanish. All my relations, positions will vanish. All my profession will vanish. All the things that are accumulated throughout my life, externally and internally, memories, everything will vanish. Yes, it's a scary perspective. So people don't want to accept it. They want to keep one foot here and one foot there. This is only available to the courageous one, fearless one. When the attention is on the pure consciousness, thereafter there cannot be excessive influence of the body identification. Therefore, Jnaneshwar Maharaj is coaxing us to quit the relative standpoint and look at the world from the divine perspective. Just now, what did I say? Take the position of looking at the cloud from the sun's point. From the sun's point of view, there is only the glory of sunlight, there is nothing called anything else. It's blinding. I'm using the word blinding, but actually, it is him only. And that is just an example. The pure consciousness is all pervasive, self-illuminating, just as sun is self-illuminating. But sun is not all pervasive. Yes, at a solar system level, we can say he's keeping the things going around. So quit the relative standpoint and take the absolute standpoint, world from the divine perspective. Then no situation will pose as a problem. This is the best way to dissolve all issues of life. What did Bhagavan say in 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, last class? If you surrender your mind to me, or who are the, yes, that was first part, whoever surrenders his mind to me while performing action, he becomes one with me. He purifies and becomes one with me. Then who are the satsangi people? Who are the good people? Who are the wise people? Who are ever contemplating on the divine. And who are the otherwise people? Who are only contemplating on everything else other than the divine. What is the consequence of those people who only think of everything else other than the divine? They perish. They perish. And that perishing is every moment. Every time we become miserable, we are perishing. Whether by way of pain, whether by way of hunger, by way of thirst, by way of cold, or by way of I want more heat. Every time we move away from ourselves and give validity to this world, we are perishing. Means we are dying. And again, next opportunity. Again, we do the same thing. Every day is an opportunity. Every day we do the same thing. Therefore, there is no reason to call ignorance as ignorance, because even though ignorance is covering the Atman is still very much in command as the knower of the ignorance. Because you know that before I was ignorant, now I know. I know right now that I am not established. I feel as if that I am not established in the self. Don't fool ourselves. As long as the world is valid, as long as past and future is valid, as long as waking, dream, and sleep are valid, and validity comes from where? From validation. Who is the validator? Who is the one who's giving it attention, value, importance? When we give attention, value, importance to the relative, we will perish. Cyclical birth and death. When we give attention, value, importance to the pure consciousness, the absolute standpoint, the divine standpoint, which is all inclusive, which is all pervasive, which is beyond thought, you may think, I want to take the position of the divine. After taking the position, you can't think anymore. You see? So challenge yourself. Not once a day, every Sunday, every moment we should be engaged in that with that approach. Today's 15th verse. Aho apanaya hi purata nena na karave zanata taya ajnanam hanata lazize ki. If the ignorance is not able to infuse ignorance in the Atman by veiling it, don't you feel ashamed to call it ignorance? It is a reprimand to us. If darkness is not able to cover the conscious principle, then are you not ashamed to call it ignorance? Are you not ashamed to call yourself that I am ignorant? This is how we usually articulate it. Because ignorance comes and goes. Just like every thought comes and goes, every day comes and goes, every year comes and goes, ignorance also comes and goes. How do you know? It is your experience. You are ignorant of so many things and still are. But the moment you gain the knowledge, then that ignorance goes away. Then how come we have given ignorance so much importance than the Atman? That's why this contemplation, that the only thing that is constant is the pure consciousness. Ignorance is not the constant. But what are we holding to? Holding on to? We are holding on to that which is not constant. What is not constant? The world, which includes this body, breath, mind, intellect. And we are holding on to that as I. It's a pure sabotage. Why sabotage? It's suicide. Every moment we are committing suicide. Every time we give value to everything else other than the self, it's a suicide. We are dying our own death even though we are deathless. Every moment we are taken away from ourselves, which is pure consciousness, we are dying. Thinking is not a problem. Let the mind think. You don't go away with thinking. You don't get carried away by thinking. If you get carried away by thinking, if you give value to anything else other than pure consciousness, we are living dead. If you can digest that, good. Otherwise, Haha, that was a very nice lecture. Didn't understand, but it was good. Oh, my dear friends, listen. Aho, now. In other words, oh, my dear friends, listen. The conclusion of the previous few verses, this is it, the amalgamation of all that, the consolidation of all that is this. Listen, that ignorance which is known by the pure self, that which seemingly covers the self, it seems that way that it is covering the self, but in spite of that, the covered, that is the Atman, has not become ignorant. Apply it to yourself, not as a concept. Atma is not a concept. Atma, I am. The mind, how do we know ignorance? Through mind, presence and absence of thoughts, convictions, notions. The mind is as if covering the self, the Atman. Ignorance is covering the self. But who knows ignorance? Does ignorance know ignorance, or the self knows the ignorance? Ignorance can never come to know ignorance. So, just like when I say, who knows there was waking dream and deep sleep, they had the experience of waking dream and deep sleep yesterday. You say I. The word is coming out I. But is that the experience of the mind? Can the mind see the waking dream and deep sleep come and go? No, mind cannot see it. Then who is saying I? For communication, for expression, the equipment is used. But who is the ultimate experiencer of the three? It cannot be the mind. If mind is equal to ignorance, mind is equal to Maya at the totality level, then who is observing the mind with all the thoughts, with all the waking, dream, and sleep, all the past and future? We know everything. So, where's the question of this conscious self that I am being covered by ignorance? Because I am the illuminator or knower of the ignorance itself. But in spite of that, the covered, the Atman, has not become ignorant. So I have never become ignorant. I have always remained. Then where is this language coming? I am ignorant, I don't know this, that. It is imagined ignorance. Imagined, uh, uh, what do you call? Imagined covering up. Why? Because you are giving importance to the changing, therefore, this type of language. That I can't do it. I don't think it is possible in this lifetime. I think I lived my whole life already. 70% of the life is over. I don't know when I'm going to go away. Now my memory is going away. Now my health is going away. You are committing sabotage, suicide every moment by every thought. Such being the case, can that ignorance be called ignorance? Can the cover be called a cover if it does not cover? Very important, very beautiful. Can a cover be called cover if it cannot cover? The cloud is covering the sun, but from sun's point of view, cloud is insignificant. Then what is the validity of cloud from the sun's point of view? Zero. What is the validity or importance of the ignorance from Atmic point of view? Zero. I can't even use the word zero because from Atmic point of view, there is only Atman. And if you want to take it as the witnessing consciousness, from witnessing consciousness point of view, it is the witnessing consciousness is unaffected by what it is witnessing. It has disentangled itself from what it is witnessing. What is it witnessing? The presence and absence. Where is the presence and absence? In the mind. Presence of thoughts and absence of thoughts. What about the world? World is nothing but a thought in your mind. What about body, breath, mind? All these are only thoughts in your mind. So we'll just come to the basis. What is the basis of the whole world? Mind. Mind is equal to ignorance. And what is ignorance? That which does not exist. And what does exist? You. As the pure consciousness, as the witnessing consciousness. And you are that right now also. Can the cover be called a cover if it does not cover? Can ignorance be called ignorance if it is not able to make any impact on the consciousness? Do you not feel ashamed to call it so? Do you not feel ashamed to have lived this entire life under the influence of something which cannot influence the Atman that you are? This is not hearsay. This is not an emotional approach. It's pure logical. To convince the intellect. Only intellect has the ability to think beyond the thoughts, at least suss it out. And here we are saying that even that sussing out right now, at this moment, do you need to employ intellect to be the conscious you are, conscious person, the Atmic person or conscious person that you are? Is consciousness a thought? Or is it your being? Or is it your nature? In deep sleep, you are not aware of your body, you are not aware of your world, you are not aware of your breath, you have no thought in your mind, but you are still conscious. You're still conscious. So is there a way, or why should I say, is there a way? Then even at this moment, whether the mind is thinking or not thinking, are we conscious or not? And therefore, can ignorance be called ignorance if it is not able to make any impact on the consciousness? Remember the topic of the chapter. Ignorance is being denied. That there is nothing called ignorance. It's only a relative term. It only comes into existence the moment you think you are an individual. It starts gaining more power. The word of ignorance starts gaining more power when you become seeker. Because you are not able to think of the consciousness in clearly. with clarity. So therefore ignorance, because what if this is what my reality is right now. And this is the art of the Sanatana Dharma and our masters which have who have codified everything, that this entire expanse of variety, the source is ignorance. And what is ignorance? That which does not exist. So what is the status of the entire experience of the variety? Your that which does not exist. Who is seeing it? The senses. Are the senses part of the creation? Yes, they also do not exist. See, everything is taken, being pulled away from under your feet. You got nowhere to hold on to stand. Before you're holding on to this variety. See, when you go from Vaikhari, Madhyama, Pashyanti, when you come to Pashyanti, at least in Vaikhari and Madhyama, Vaikhari you had this gross sound to hold on to. In Vaikhari you had the subtle sound to hold on to, the mental thought to hold on to. In Pashyanti there is nothing to hold on to. Unless and until we are not ready. And because either we are scared to let go of what we are holding on to, or we are afraid to surrender to what we are holding on to and go beyond. That is para. You have to be wakeful for that. And here we are talking, this entire chapter is about going beyond Pashyanti, if you want to think that way. The creation is the effect, Maya is the cause. Thoughts are the effect, mind is the cause. Waking and dream are the effect, deep sleep is the cause. All synonymous, huh? Think. So if the whole creation is coming out of ignorance, and ignorance is that which does not exist, what is its validity? And when we give attention to this variety of the world without properly assessing it, therefore our life is a misery, only temporary joys. And we are searching permanent joy through the variety which has got no capacity, no power to give us permanent joy, because it's changing. And we think denial of the total creation or going back to the cause of the creation will give us total joy. That also doesn't happen, because Brahmaji also sleeps for a long time, but then he has to wake up. You also sleep 7, 8, 10, 12 hours. Joy. Utter joy. But then you have to wake up. When you wake up again, the variety begins. So we are going beyond ignorance and its effects. We are going beyond cause and effects. So here we are not trying to dissolve the effects, because how many effects are there? Infinite number of names and forms are there. What all will you remove from your mind? So what is Jnaneshwar Maharaj doing? Straight away denying the cause itself. You remove the cause, effects automatically go away with it. Smart, no? Like I go weeding in the garden, some weeds I pull out from the root, but some of them are hard. So only sometimes they break from in between. Sometimes the whole root doesn't come off or a little bit remains behind. So if I see the weed and I just pull the top part off, the root is still there. Again, the new weed will come up. And how many, exactly the same way, how many things are we going to deny in this world? Deny the cause itself, that it is existing in its own absence, that it is not real. What? Ignorance. So Jnaneshwar Maharaj is saying, don't you feel ashamed? Don't you feel ashamed to call it so? To call ignorance and as ignorance, don't you feel ashamed? And what do we say when we say ignorant? I am ignorant, isn't it? I don't know. Don't you feel ashamed? Now an example is given. Abhale bhanugrase tay abhal kone prakashe sushupti sushuptaya ruse te taye techi kona. Who will illumine the clouds if they were to cover the sun? Who will illumine the deep sleep if she were to annihilate the sleeper? Now, unknowingly, I have already taken the same example before. The clouds are said to cover the sun, but the clouds can be seen. In whose light are the clouds seen? The sun's light. Then can we say that the sun is covered? No, we cannot say the sun is covered. Similarly, if in deep sleep the ignorance annihilates the Atman, who will know that one was in deep sleep? Here, annihilate means covers. You can take it cover also. Or you can say in deep sleep, it was an ignorant sleep. That is also a foolish conclusion. Relatively, it is true. But if you think a little bit, who knows that there was deep sleep? That means you are awake there also. But imagining that I am asleep. Who was asleep? Waker was asleep. Who was asleep? Dreamer was asleep. But who are you? The one who illuminates the waker and the dreamer and the sleeper. In sleeper, there is no personality. There is no experiencer of the sleep. Similarly, if in deep sleep the ignorance annihilates the Atman, who will know that one was in deep sleep? If deep sleep was to cover and influence the sleeper, then who is the person who knows that I had a wonderful sleep? If he was covered, how could he know? Knowing is possible only when the knower is experiencing the known. Hearing is possible where the hearer that you are and the heard that the one on this side of the screen, these two are separate. And who is the knower of the sleep? It must be someone other than the sleep. If it is other than the sleep and you know there was sleep, how can sleep or ignorance cover the knower? Not possible. In the same way, taise ajnana ase jethe te chizari ajnana ate tari ajnana ajnate nenata gele. Similarly, If ignorance were to turn the self into ignorance by veiling it, then also the ignorance will be annihilated without knowing itself in the absence of the knower. Apply it on yourself. If ignorance was to cover the consciousness that I am, now what have I become? I have become ignorant consciousness. Who is this ignorant consciousness? I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. What you don't know? I don't know the whole world. I don't know God. I don't know myself. I think my ignorance is covering myself. I think I have to go through the so many chakras. I think I have to do this. I think I have to do that. Why I have to do all this? Because I don't know, and this is the process of purification. Where is purification? What is purification? Where it is happening? In the expression of the ignorance. But if ignorance does not exist, then can purification exist? Is there any validity to purification? No. Instantaneously, story over. So if ignorance is turning the absolute, if this is the language which is used, if ignorance is converting the absolute consciousness into uh, gaunatma or mithyatma. If ignorance is converting mukhya atma according to Panchadashi, if ignorance is converting mukhya atma by covering it into mithyatma or gaunatma, mithyatma conditioned consciousness, gaunatma father, mother, daughter, sister, virtual reality, illusory reality, and who are you? Actual reality. Then where is this relative reality which is expressing as the illusory and the virtual? Oh, it is the effect of the ignorance. So here when he says that if ignorance were to turn the self into ignorant by veiling it, if the absolute self has been veiled by ignorance and now it is only expressing as the mithyatma and the gaunatma, then also the ignorance will be annihilated without knowing itself. Now there is no knower of ignorance. There is no knower of the cause. And if there is no knower, the known, which is ignorance, cannot exist. For anything to exist in relative, subject and object, for object to exist as an object, subject has to be there. If subject is not there, object cannot exist. If waker is not there and is surrendering to deep sleep, waking world cannot exist. It's the object of the waker. Object of experience for the waker. If waker is not available to the waking world and is thinking of deep sleep and surrenders to deep sleep, waking world has got no validity. Same thing is true about the dream also. This is the analysis that we have to do about ourselves. Then who will know ignorance? Then ignorance cannot exist because there is no subject, it has already covered it. How will ignorance exist then? And last bit, will be annihilated without knowing itself in the absence of the knower. If there is no knower, ignorance cannot exist by itself. Self can exist by itself. Ignorance cannot exist by itself. Maya cannot exist at the totality level. Maya cannot exist by itself. There is a wielder of Maya. He is Ishvara. Sunlight cannot exist by itself. There has to be a sun. for sunlight to exist. Mind cannot exist by itself. There has to be consciousness. Waves cannot exist by themselves. There has to be water. Ignorance cannot exist by itself. Ignorance is not self-established. Ignorance is not self-illuminating. Ignorance is not self-knowing. Ignorance is not self-existing. But on the other hand, Atma is self-knowing, self-existing, self-illuminating. But if this Atman we say ignorance has covered, therefore I am studying the scriptures because I think I am incomplete and I want to be complete. This is our approach, isn't it? We are shooting in the dark. Somewhere the penny must drop within us when we are listening to these words. If it drops, very good. Otherwise, next life we'll meet again. I don't know, we'll meet again or not. Maybe it clicks to you, maybe it clicks to it will click to us, and then we may meet, enjoying each other's company, not to remove anything, not to achieve anything, not to know anything. Maybe that is exactly what is happening right now. And we are both fooling each other that I am listening and you are saying, if I am feeling that you are listening and you are feeling that I am teaching. A game going on. In the end, phenomena is nothing but a game. Leela. If ignorance cannot exist in pure knowledge, the Atma, can it be said that ignorance is in ignorance? Can it be said that ignorance is covering ignorance? It will be like saying that water is covering the water. Therefore, Atma is not the place where ignorance can possibly exist. Atma is not the place where ignorance can possibly exist. Water is not a place where wave can possibly exist. What a foolish conclusion. I see the wave. And you are saying that the wave does not exist in water. You know where this thought is going? You know what the next sentence is going to be? Can someone preempt?
All one, Swamiji.
No. All one, yes, but think in the logic that we are progressing. Where is the wave? Where is the ornament? Where is the mud pot? Where is the ignorance? Where is this entire variety?
All are
Where?
all Atman, Swamiji.
Only in our mind. Variety is only in our mind.
Okay.
Variety is only in our mind. So, when you touch, feel, taste the wave, it is nothing but water. Then why don't you call it water? So, where is the waveness? It is in our mind. We are touching, feeling, tasting gold. But where is the ornament? It is in our mind. We are touching, feeling, tasting mud. But where is the pot? It's only in our mind. We are touching, tasting, feeling, experiencing, ideating, thinking ourselves as panchakoshas, the five sheaths. But actually what it is nothing but the self. So where is this panchakoshas? Only in our mind.
So you're saying, Swamiji, it's a multiplicities in the mind.
Absolutely, absolutely. Variety or multiplicity is the same thing. And the cause of that multiplicity is ignorance. It is only in our mind. And where is mind? It's existing in its own absence. One way of looking at it. Other way you can see it as, if you take it positively, it is the Maya. From totality point of view, it is the Maya, it is the potentiality of the divine, and the play is going on. That was our meditation today. Thus, Sant Jnaneshwara or Jnaneshwar Maharaj refutes that ignorance exists. Only Shuddha Atma Tattva exists. That is the only reality. Ignorance is absence of knowledge, and absence has no existence of its own. Neither can ignorance exist in Atma Tattva, nor can it exist independent of Atma Tattva. So now this is the important conclusion. Ignorance is not in the pure consciousness, and ignorance cannot exist independent of the pure consciousness. So in other words, what is the conclusion? It is not there only. Then what is there? Meaning, if ignorance does not exist, underline the word exist. If ignorance cannot exist independently, and it cannot exist in the Atman, the pure consciousness, and if we say ignorance does exist, then which one is true? Atma exists or ignorance exists? You cannot have two existences. So systematically, Jnaneshwar Maharaj has denied the ignorance and its validity. Therefore, we must not consider that we are living in ignorance. We are ignorant. We are not ignorant. We are of the nature of pure consciousness. We are the all-knowing principle. Surrender. Be available to yourself. Be that. To be that, you can use thoughts, but it should be those thoughts which do not take you towards the world, but they take you back to no conclusion. You are not a conclusion of the thought. Self is not the conclusion of a thought. When you say I am, or I am the self, I am the pure consciousness, this is word in your mind. But what it is indicating can never be an experience of the mind. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. Who is knowing that this thought was appearing and disappearing in the mind? That one you are. Very fine dissection of our of ourselves and the mind has to come about. It doesn't happen because you are listening to a lecture. It may happen, you may get a glimpse, you may be there for few seconds, microseconds, but to remain steady in it, it requires a 24/7 approach. 24/7, where your attention is only on the conscious principle. And that attention is not, I am thinking of the consciousness. No, I am the consciousness in and through every activity. As the Bhagavad Gita told in 18th chapter. Performing all activity, resign your mind to me, the Lord said. Neither can ignorance exist in Atma, nor can it exist independent of Atma Tattva. तो उसकी जगह कहाँ है? कहीं पे भी नहीं. It's nowhere. It's neither in the Atma and neither it is outside the Atma. And therefore, what is the definition we give to ignorance? That which is existing in its own absence. What is thought? That which is existing in its own absence. What is waking, dream, deep sleep? That which is existing in its own absence. What is this whole world? That which is existing in its own absence. What is that which is existing in its own absence? That which is only temporarily appearing and then disappearing. Find out what is temporarily appearing and disappearing. If you know the whole world by way of thought, thought is temporarily appearing and then again disappearing. How long will we remain a slave of a thought? Remaining a slave of a thought is equal to, I think, therefore I am, which is not your experience. Your experience is, I am the observer of thoughts which are coming and going, isn't it? And that includes not only the objective thought, that also includes the I thought. Don't forget that part. I am seeing, I am hearing, I am understanding, I am experiencing. In this, the seeing object, the heard object, the experienced object, and the I and the instrument, because those three are required for an experience. All these three are known by you at any given moment. Right now, when you say you're nodding, you say, in other words, I am understanding. This is what a thought is going in your mind. In whose light this thought that I am understanding is taking place? You are the illuminator of that, isn't it? This is said in the 18th verse. Na tari ajnana ek ghade, he jayastava nivade, te ajnana nave phude, kone kali. That knowledge, that self, knowledge is equal to self. Never understand knowledge at the mental level. We are always in scriptures, knowledge, unless it is specified, para, apara vidya. Para vidya is the higher knowledge, apara vidya is the worldly knowledge. We are not talking about that here. We are talking knowledge itself, which is not other than the self, the Atman. The knowledge self which illumines the ignorance cannot be called ignorance. Therefore, ignorance never was, nor will it ever be in future. Conclusion. That Atma Tattva, because of which ignorance is illumined, cannot be covered by ignorance. Just as that light, because of which you can see the cloud, cannot cover the sun, it only appears to cover the sun. It is beyond that Atma, that sun is beyond ignorance. Therefore, Atma Tattva is the reality and ignorance is not. Ignorance is not the reality. Atma Tattva is the reality. And how do we live? We live as this body is the reality. This life is the reality. These relations are the reality. My survival is the reality. This air, fire, water, earth that I am experiencing, without which I cannot live, is the reality. My dosa, idli, vada is the reality. My memories are the reality. We talk about, no, all this knowledge is good, but make it practical in this life. How do we apply it in our life? This statement presupposes the validity of the world, and you want to make the self, the Lord, the divinity to be practical in this world. You want to use the divinity to achieve your conclusions in this world. Through this body, through this mind, through this equipment. This is a foolish cry. It cannot be. But we have to play the game of this stupid, and we have to speak in that language. You are right. This is a practical technique of meditation. You do this, you do that. Relax your body, relax your breath, relax your mind. Whose effect is body, breath, mind, intellect? Ignorance. And where is ignorance? Does not exist. What is the status of body, breath, mind, intellect? Does not exist. What relaxation will you give it to it? So as long as you feel you are a person, it is valid. You have to do something to pacify them, to relax them. This is to relax the body, breath, mind, intellect, beginner seeker, not even a seeker. But we are studying the direct experience of Jnaneshwar Maharaj. Here the basics have already been thrown out. We don't need it's a new basic. What is the new basic? Ignorance does not exist. Only self exists. This is the new basic. This is the new foundation. In Bhagavad Gita, when we begin, the foundation is, I understand the Atma is, but how do I get to it? No, you are it. No. Don't trick my mind that I am that. No, show me practically how I am that. So many paths were created, karma yoga, dhyana yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga. Here there is, where are all the practices? They are expressions of ignorance. All practices are expressions of ignorance because they are happening in the relative. So this kada which Jnaneshwar Maharaj is serving us, kada sounds bitter, but it's very nourishing. It heals completely. This is the ultimate kada. From relative standpoint of view, if you look at what he's saying, I think he's gone bonkers. He does not understand what he's talking about. You mean to say this whole world, everything that I have put efforts in and everything that I have invested in and all my relations, they are existing in their absence? That's bekoof. When someone says that, tathastu, so be it, continue. But if someone comes with faith, with surrender, with commitment, like we have come to this Amrutanubhava, and slowly, slowly, as we have gone through each chapter, the ignorance and its effects are getting nullified, are being checkmated. Here is in this chapter, ignorance is checkmated in such a way that it cannot put its hood up. When we take the example of snake and the rope, how many practices are you going to do to remove the snake from the rope? All the practices that you are going to do, the sadhanas that you are going to do to remove the snake from the rope, are they going to remove the snake from the rope? The one who is experiencing the snake on the rope, he is fearful, he is frothing, he is been bitten, he is shivering, because he gave validity to that which was not valid. But the passerby who saw, he just laughs at that fellow. Like we laugh at the children who become afraid of the silhouettes falling on the wall in the dim light of the street light. Grown-ups don't get afraid of it, but small child, look at that, someone is coming, he is coming to grab you, eat your food quickly. He will eat. Exactly the same way. Exactly the same way. Atma Tattva, because of which ignorance is illumined, cannot be covered by ignorance. It is beyond ignorance. So this Atma Tattva is beyond ignorance. Therefore, Atma Tattva is the reality and ignorance is not. Adi Shankaracharya defines ignorance as prabodhanashya, that which is destroyed in the recognition of one's own self. So one is ignorance, that which exists in own absence. Either you accept that or, but to, this is only intellectual understanding that it's existing in its own absence. What about practicality? How do I deny it completely? Prabodhanasya. When we come to know the self, then alone ignorance is destroyed. For whom? Only for you. It's not a general principle. Only for you. For the one who has come to realize that he is the conscious self. For whom is the dream and the dream world and the dream family and the dream house and the dream investments and the dream relations and the dream travels and the dream enemies and the dream friends and the dream devotion and the dream sadhana. Does everyone in the dream get realized? Or the one, the dreamer, when he wakes up, once he wakes up, he is no longer influenced by any of the characters in the dream. In other words, in other words, they are also liberated. Therefore, when they say, when one sannyasi is born in a family or in one family someone becomes godwards, 3 generations before, 3 generations after are liberated. Their whole clan is liberated. The 3 generations before or generation after was for the person. He unclutched from the attachments and he realized he is the self. The moment he realizes, he has woken up. The moment he wakes up, just like when you wake up from the dream, everyone in the dream goes back to from where they came from. Liberated. No, I will only wake up when all of them wake up. Stupid or what? In the dream, you decide, I'm going to wake up only when all of them wake up. Many people say, I don't want to get liberated. I don't want to merge into the divine. I want to take everyone and merge into the divine. Then wait. Life after life after life after life. The fact of the matter is, the entire dream is in your mind. The mind has woken up. Along with that, everything that was in your dream also woke up. By you waking up, everyone wakes up. Who is that everyone? Whoever is influenced by your presence. Just in waking experience, I'm saying. A realized master has woken up. He was ignorant before, now he's woken up. From his point of view, everything is perfect. From your point of view, everything is imperfect. So you migrated here. But when we are in the presence of the Mahatmas, everything seems perfect. Just by being in the presence of Mahatmas. Just by being in their company. Osmosis. Therefore, that which establishes ignorance to be ignorance cannot be either the support of ignorance nor be supported by it. So, what is establishing ignorance as ignorance? It cannot be Atman. Because from Atman point of view, there is no ignorance. So it cannot support ignorance. This is very pure. It's a very fine line. If you take Shiva Shakti, Shiva is independently existing. It doesn't need the support of Shakti to be for his own existence. It doesn't need it. But Shakti, she is essentially the Paramashiva, behaving as if she is separated from her essential nature. So as long as that Shakti is thinking about the is turned her head away from her core, she multiplies. When her attention is on the Shiva, she merges. As long as our attention of the mind is on the self, the mind will merge. If its attention is on the world, it will multiply. But here Jnaneshwar Maharaj is saying, that ignorance, don't see the mind as an effect of ignorance. There is only pure consciousness. There is only pure consciousness. Ishvara doesn't see, from Ishvara's point of view, is there a world? I'm asking, from Ishvara's point of view, is there a world to be fixed?
No.
Explain.
Ishvara alone exists, nobody else exists.
Can Ishvara exist independently?
He needs Shakti.
Huh?
He needs Shakti.
Huh?
He needs Shakti, the Prakriti.
Ishvara what?
Needs Prakriti, the Shakti, to exist.
No. Parabrahma Paramatma, the formless, attributeless reality, is known as Ishvara with reference to his Shakti. But what is the disposition of Ishvara?
Ishvara alone, Swami.
That I alone am.
Yeah.
He doesn't see his potentiality as separate to himself. And somewhere in you also same thing is happening. You don't see the mind as separate to yourself. You think it is me. Isn't it? Till you come across Adi Shankaracharya. I am not the body, I am not the mind. So from Ishvara's point of view, I alone am. He doesn't see the world like you see it. Because the potentiality which is making the variety appear is inherent within Ishvara. It is his potentiality. She doesn't have a separate existence apart from Ishvara. Does your mind have a separate existence apart from you? Does it? It is inherent. It is you. And when you take this approach that at a more clinical level, that mind is nothing but consciousness, then where's the question of ignorance? If mind is also consciousness, then where's the question of ignorance? But we are living in a world where it is me and mine, you and yours, me versus you. We are in competition. We are living in duality. Prakriti may think, Shakti may think about the Ishvara, about her beloved. But Ishvara, in spite of thinking, inherently knows that all is one. And he doesn't need to say that. He just knows it. This is the disposition of the Mahatmas who are moving around. Therefore, Atma Tattva is the reality and ignorance is not. Adi Shankaracharya defines ignorance as prabodha nasya, that which is destroyed in the recognition of one's own self. Therefore, that which establishes ignorance to be ignorance cannot be either the support of ignorance nor be supported by it. Therefore, that which establishes ignorance to be ignorance cannot be either be the support of ignorance nor be supported by it. Jnaneshwar Maharaj is endeavoring to wean us away from the tendency to lean on any kind of support in the journey to the reality, because I is the support of everything, whether it is karma ashraya, path of karma, upasana ashraya, path of devotion, jnana ashraya, path of knowledge, or yoga ashraya, path of meditation. The relative standpoint, the duality of the individual versus the goal to be reached are still maintained. However, it in a subtle form in a subtle form. In reality, the only true ashraya is the self, the I, because of which all karma, upasana, etc. is possible. Therefore, Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, he who fixes his mind on me totally, surrenders and intensely wants to know me, he takes my support, madashraya alone and not of anything else. We have talked about this point already. The path of karma, all the paths. What is the basis of all the paths? The I. What is the foundation of it? Who is going to practice Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Laya Yoga? I. You are the sadhak. Find out who is this I. Again, the whole principle comes as a relative at a seeker level. Bring your attention from manyness to oneness. Manyness is the objectivity, oneness is the I. Ramana Maharishi technique. Who am I? This must be a natural throb. This will be a natural, the question must arise of your udasinata, your withdrawal, your dispassion towards the world. The question who am I should not appear in your mind because you have read it somewhere, you have heard it somewhere, because you fancy it. No, it must be a consequence of your vairagya. It must be a consequence of your natural withdrawal from the variety. If all variety is gone, then who am I? If I can't hold on to anything, then who am I? If I am not supported by any object for my existence, who am I? I still seem to be there. No object is there. Waker is not there, dreamer is not there, sleeper is not there, relatives are not there, memory is not there, body, breath, mind, intellect, everything is gone. But I still exist. Then who am I? No support left. Then who am I? And don't look for a conclusion because you are. So, from manyness to oneness, every moment of our existence, our attention should be on this one constant, unchanging principle that I am. And if we are not able to, then take the name of the Lord. Hold on to it in spite of everything. If that is not happening, have the bhav, have the feeling that everything Lord is doing. Everything is happening by His grace. How it is happening, why it is happening, it's not our concern. It is happening, that's all. He is only making it happen. And as your attention becomes focused on the Lord by His grace, then realization that the Lord and I are not separate, it will come about by His grace. When this knowledge dawns, no concept will be allowed to be formed to serve as support, and the biggest concept is that of ignorance that needs to be removed to enable one to go forward. We have to escape means disentangle from the clutches of Maya. In other words, we have to disentangle from the clutches of our mind at individual level. Lord is always disentangled from the Maya principle, His Shakti. We are identified with our Shakti, the potentiality, the mind. And we need to step out of the mind and look at the whole situation. When you're standing on the side of the road and watching the traffic come and go, you don't become the traffic. You are the onlooker. If you do go too close to the traffic, stand on the edge of the curb. If some fast car is going by the side of the road right in front of you, maybe 1 feet away, you feel as if you are getting pulled into the road. It happens, no? If you are driving and a truck passes by next to you when you are learning the car, you feel as if the car is, you want to hold, dur jana hai truck se, but you feel that the truck is sucking your car into itself. The faster the movement, the more the magnetism. You stand apart. Don't stand too close. Standing close means giving attention to some passing thought. Before you know, you are pulled into it. You are influenced by it. Many times we will fall. Keep standing apart, keep standing apart, keep standing apart. And as I said before, the entire variety is an expression of the ignorance. The entire effect is because of a cause. Remove the cause, there is no effect. Every ornament, the effect, has the cause called gold. Remove the gold, there is no ornament. Remove the water, there are no waves. Just an example, because every time I keep taking example that water is the absolute, ocean is the totality, wave is the individual. Now I'm saying remove the water. Suddenly you will misunderstand. How can reality be removed? It cannot be removed. This is only an example of cause and effect. Remove the cause, effect is removed. If effect cannot exist of its own accord, because effect is nothing but cause appearing as many effects. Gold alone is appearing as different ornaments. Mud alone is appearing as different pots. Ocean alone is appearing as different waves. Remove the ocean, there is no wave. Remove the mud, there is no pot. Remove the gold, there is no ornament. Remove the ignorance. In Jnaneshwar Maharaj, remove the incomplete knowledge. Ignorance equal to incomplete knowledge, he told before. Variety will vanish. So how do you remove incomplete knowledge? By being complete. Simple. And what is complete knowledge? Be the pure consciousness that you are always, without any support. That is very important. The moment you look for a support, you have committed suicide. Be without support. Examples are given in the next four OVs to illustrate how ignorance has no validity. He is not going to let us free, let us off the leash that easily, till we don't accept that there is no ignorance. We'll look at that in our next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om.